Welcome to our daily reflection for this Thursday, April 17th. And today is Holy Thursday. And so we celebrate the evening Mass of the Lord's Supper. And so this is a very distinctive liturgy as we get into the Holy Triduum, where we go from Holy Thursday, where Jesus will have the Last Supper, he'll be betrayed, he goes to the Garden of Gethsemane, and then he'll be seized, and then we'll have the Passion of Jesus on Good Friday and his death on the cross. And so the events of Holy Thursday night are very much related to what follows in the next 24 hours. And so his death on the cross will be the completion of what he prophetically begins on Holy Thursday. And one of the things that we think about with Jesus is that we know he's a priest, prophet, and king. And of course, when we read about and hear his passion narrative, we know that the title and the accusation for him to be sentenced to death is that he's King of the Jews. And so that'll be the title over the cross. In other words, that's the reason that he is being executed, is that he's the King of the Jews. And of course, he dies as the representative of Israel, as we'll see. And so we see that royal sense. And that royal sense actually is what we took back a few days ago with Palm Sunday, when Jesus had his royal entry into Jerusalem as a king, as the Messiah, as the anointed of the Lord. And so we see this royal theme running from Palm Sunday all the way to him being crowned and mocked as King of the Jews, crowned with thorns, the execution, King of the Jews. But there's also two other elements besides the royal that fit in together with what Jesus is both doing and who he is in all these events. And on Holy Thursday, there's the prophetic element that's really important that we're going to see both on Holy Thursday night as well as at the trial. And so if we look at the prophetic element, Jesus does some things that prophets do. He's going to predict at the Last Supper that one of you will betray me. So there's a prophecy about Judas's betrayal. There's also the prophecy that Peter will deny him 3 times before the cock crows. And so there's that prophecy that we'll see fulfilled during the trial in the evening, late hours of the night. But there's also something else that Jesus does. He takes the bread and breaks it, and that is a prophetic sign, that because he says, "This is my body, which is given up for you." And he's prophetically breaking his body, and then he says that takes the cup and says, "This is my blood, which is poured out for you." When blood's poured out, there's death. When a body's broken, it dies. And so Jesus is giving in the Eucharist at the Last Supper here prophetic gestures of what is about to befall him, that he is going to die, and that his death will be a gift and will be an atoning sacrifice that will usher in a new covenant, because there's always the sacrifice of animals that die. There has to be the shedding of blood to seal a covenant. And this covenant, unlike the old covenant, which was sealed with the blood of animals, this covenant will be sealed with the blood of God himself, with Jesus' own blood. But one of the unique things about this liturgy is that you'll see on Holy Thursday night, the priest, the pastor of the parish, will usually wash the feet of 12 people in imitation of Jesus washing his apostles' feet. And Jesus washing their feet is again another prophetic gesture. I want you to see this as a prophetic gesture. Jesus says, "What I'm doing now you don't understand, but you will one day understand it." And then he says, "I'm giving you a model." And after Jesus washes the feet, one of the important things he says is "A new commandment I give you." Now we know from Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, when they tell about the Last Supper, that Jesus takes the cup and the bread and says, "This is the new covenant in my blood." Well, what John gives us in John 13 is another new. So there's something new besides covenant. The other time Jesus uses the word new is to modify the idea of law. A new commandment I'm giving you. And if there's a new law, it must come in the context of a new covenant. And so John fills in for us what Matthew, Mark, and Luke don't mention, and that is Jesus makes this prophetic gesture of washing feet, and then he says, "A new covenant, a new law I give you," and that law is love one another as I have loved you. So Jesus gives this, the key commandment of the new covenant is radical Christ-like charity, to make a gift of self, selfless, serving love. So we serve as Jesus does. And of course, he gives the commandment in word, love one another as I have loved you, but he also speaks that in a gesture or in an act. And that act that embodies his commandment to love is his washing of the feet, the most humble service, usually reserved for the youngest child or the slave of a wealthy household. And so Jesus takes the role of a slave, of a servant, washing their feet. And Peter wants nothing of that, right? Peter says, you can't wash me. And then Jesus says, if I don't wash you, you won't be clean, you'll have no part of me. And again, Jesus' act does two things. One, it's a prophetic gesture of baptism. I must make you clean if you want to be part of me, Jesus says to Peter. But also Jesus is doing this as a gesture of charity and service and humility of love. The key commandment being love as I have loved you. And so there's a lot we can talk about with this event tonight, but I just want to focus on Jesus' prophetic gesture of embodying the new commandment of the new covenant, which is love. And so it's to be a stark reminder to us that at the heart of our Christian faith, at the heart of Christianity, is this new covenant that Christ makes in his blood that washes away our sins, but also calls us to life in him and to live out the charity. We should live out charity to others as Christ has loved us. So he's given us a model. Let's reflect on the model of Christ's radical love of others in service and ask ourselves how we can serve those around us more humbly and more faithfully, that we can embody the love he commands us. May the Lord bless and keep you.
This daily reflection is brought to you thanks to the generous support of the Mission Circle. Join the Mission Circle to help Catholics worldwide understand, live, and share their faith. Sign up at missioncircle.org today.